Hello.
Good morning.
So this is day 3 in the 4-part Facebook Live series on speaking your truth. Speaking your truth in ways that create connection, in ways that you're received, and in ways that empower both you and your child and brings you into the equation.
Yes. Well said. I don't have anything to add to that. That was really good. This is day 3 out of 4. So the first 2 days we did the inner work pieces. Good morning to people joining. We did the first 2 pieces and we'll do a super fast recap of that in just a sec so you're on the same page. Today and tomorrow are external relational tools. Yeah. What do you actually outwards?
And different things that can come up, like how to navigate when you are actually speaking outwards.
Yeah. So today is some a heap of core speaking practices, and tomorrow is collaborative problem solving and giving feedback, which is actually the way we teach conscious communication. Giving feedback is a separate sphere to speaking your truth because it has different intentions and it has different processes.
And because one foundational thing is you don't want to just launch into giving feedback when you don't have connection between each
you've got to establish the connection first. So feedback's coming tomorrow because it's not it's a specialized area of speaking your truth. But it is valid and important as a mother.
Yeah, I just want to add the things that we're talking about today actually come from this kit, the Conscious Mama's Communication Kit. And I just looked at the timer. For the next 2 hours, if you join us in Mother Rising,
it's yours.
You get this kit, the e-version of this kit, as our gift to you. It costs $42 on our website. We'll give it to you when you join us in Mother Rising. So do that as soon as you finish watching this.
I love the little tech fairy timer.
I know, it's great.
Does all that sort of stuff for us. 2 hours. 2 hours?
About then.
About 2 hours. So this is like the end of that one. Got to get on it if you're going to do it. Okay, so let's get into today's class. Yeah. So I'll start. How about I start with a quick recap, and then we can launch into your notes on the new material because you wrote the notes today.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So really quick recap, just for a minute or two, so we're all on the same page. The very first day the first 2 days we talked about the inner work that's required to set you up for success in your communication, to set you up to be able to really have your words land in a way that it can be heard by the other people and they don't get all defensive and freaked out, and that you feel really empowered and like you're bringing yourself to the situation. So the first piece of that was you need to check in with yourself. And we taught you a little bit about tracking. And that is super important because if you're not clear on what you're feeling and what you're needing, then it is really hard to communicate that clearly because you're not clear yourself. And it's easy to do. Often we are not super clear if we don't tune in first about what's really moving within us. What's really moving within you in the moment is a key piece in having really powerful communication. It needs to be real in the moment, what's real for you if you really want it to land with another person. So we taught you about tracking and tuning in, and the practice that we gave you to play with for the next 24 hours was, what am I feeling, what am I needing? And a part of me is feeling and a part of me is needing. Because the other thing that we spoke about, just really briefly, was the idea that we're multifaceted. We have many parts within us, and they can hold contrasting opinions and beliefs and thought processes. You can want one thing and another, you can think one thing and another, that sort of thing, and that all of that could be valid. And one way to express that is a part of me is feeling and a part of me is needing. So that was day 1, and if you want to get more in depth in that, go look at it on our timeline because it will be just a couple videos behind this one. And then yesterday we spoke about intention and energy as the foundational pieces of non-verbal communication. Before you even open your mouth, you want to put these things in place.
They're actually the foundational pieces of verbal communication too.
Oh, yeah.
Underneath it all.
Sorry, that's the non-verbal piece before you start speaking.
Yeah.
Did you want to add something else?
No.
I just felt you go, I gotta talk. I'm like, okay.
You're saying everything so beautifully.
Okay, so intention and energy. And we talked about really check in with yourself. What is your intention in the moment to communicate? Because sometimes our intentions, when we check in, they're not really going to serve us, and we have some deeper intentions that we want to talk about. If your intention is to be right and to get everyone on board with your way of thinking, that's quite different to my intention is to feel heard and understood. So check in on your intention and set an intention that feels real to you, not a fake intention, something that's not, that you can't like, oh, I should have this as my intention, but it's not. Like, set something that feels true, that's important, and move forwards from there. And we talked about embodying your intention, which we'll get to in 1 second. Second piece of that foundation is energy. What energy will most serve you in this conversation? What quality, what trait are you wanting to project? Are you wanting to embody and let it just come out of you? Those two things, intention and energy, set you up, and you want to embody them. And we talked about breathing them into your body and really coming from that space, moving from that space, being that, walking from that, speaking from that, and allowing that to really flavor everything that comes afterwards. And the words float on top of your intention and your energy. They kind of sit over the top. They're held by it all. And that energy and intention set up, that first tiny piece, supports the whole rest of the interaction. We spoke a little bit about how, 80% of your communication is actually non-verbal. And where is it coming from? It's coming from that intention and that energy, those pieces. All your body language flows from there. All your words flow from there. So we spoke about how that was super important. So that's the recap, and we're building on that today. So you absolutely need to do those two pieces first before you move into just the speaking piece. It's your entire foundation. You're all set up to go, and we'll move forwards today from there.
And also, not only just before, but it's those foundational pieces are also woven throughout you speaking. Like as you're communicating and speaking your truth, sharing yourself with somebody else, continue to check in. What is my intention again? Is my energy congruent with my intention right now? Am I actually embodying my intention? And checking in with what am I actually feeling and needing right now? And continuing to do that. Like, it's a bit of a dance. It's yes, I'm speaking, but I'm continuing to come back within. The more connected you are to yourself, the more connection you'll create with the other person. So it's a movement, yeah.
It's a dance, back and forwards.
Yes.
And sometimes you need to tune in, and sometimes you need to speak out. And that's really the case for all 4 spheres of our communication strategy. You've always got to be coming back within and checking in on what's going on. Okay.
Yeah,
awesome.
Totally.
We talked about congruency as well, and I didn't really touch on that in the recap. If you're interested, that energy and intention, we talk about the importance of congruency and how congruency is what sets you up to really have your words land in a really powerful way, that your children can sense when there's a lot of internal mismatch and lack of alignment happening in you, and your words are not matching what's going on within you, and you lose congruency in that moment, and you lose power, personal power, in that space, and your leadership falls over a little bit, and your words don't land as powerfully, and it can be super frustrating. In fact, I would probably say that's one of the main reasons, if you're feeling mega frustrated, that you're not feeling heard, that your words just aren't landing, because your kids, they absolutely heart and soul want to be in partnership with you and on the same team. So if that's not happening and you're mega frustrated about it, I would check in with congruency and alignment. Am I saying one thing but have a whole heap of other stuff going on inside, which is kind of diluting me and making me wishy-washy energetically? energetically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Which is also definitely also about really knowing yourself.
Yeah.
So the first video, like
Yeah.
what is actually going on for me.
Yeah.
So
speak strategies.
Yes. So firstly, before we get into a few strategies, another important thing to remember is, and this is especially applicable because we're in such like a kind of a, we're in a culture where there's so much stuff going on, and like multitasking is often celebrated, and like we're easily get distracted by all those little gadgets we have, and our children do as well. And
I used to be really proud of my ability to be a multitasking queen, like seriously, and now I actively work to not multitask, but like I remember that.
Yeah.
So it's a superpower of mine.
I can do it all. Yeah, so this is kind of one more foundational thing before the communication is actually get present with the person you want to communicate with and check that you have their attention. Like, don't make this communication like a passing thing where you're like trying to do it in a hurry in order to get to something else. And also maybe don't try to communicate with them while they're busy doing something else.
Oh yeah, how many times do we do that? Do we try to communicate as we're running past, grabbing stuff to put in the bag as we're on our way out the door? You need to be getting your shoes on, and they're like playing on the floor, and you're like, okay, that's probably not going to land. So yeah.
So kind of slowing down. Okay, and I know sometimes that can seem hard, like life's too busy, but that's often a bit of a trick we kind of convince ourselves of, that we don't have enough time to slow down a little and just connect, but we can.
It can be really quick.
Yeah, slow down, really look at them, really see them, check that they're seeing you, like get down on their level. Children are smaller than us, kind of.
Drop down.
Yeah.
And absolutely, yeah, have their attention before you start trying to speak, for sure, because they could be totally focused. And children, as a rule, they do multitask, but they're great at putting 100% focus on certain things at a time. The game they're playing, the video they're watching, the stuff, that sort of thing. And so they can totally tune everything out around them, including you. And that's not like an intentional mean thing. That's just they're really absorbed in what they're doing. So absolutely have their attention. That's a big one. Big one.
So then the next whole kind of teaching point we want to bring, the practice we want to bring, can be summed up in the phrase "speak from the I." And there's so much, there can be lots in this, but kind of at the foundational level, speak your truth, speak what you're feeling and what you're needing. So often we skip that and we go to you should be doing this, or I need you to do that, or can you, jumping to a request of can you do this, and not actually explaining what your truth is, which is what we shared in the first video. What's really going on for you? What's your feelings? What's your needs? What's really moving around in you? What's the thoughts that are going on? Actually sharing your truth.
Yeah, you can make requests, but the I comes first, so the requests come a little bit later.
Yeah. And
some of the phrases you might want to play around with: I'm feeling and I'm needing, or I'm wanting. This matters to me because.
And the because is your needs. It's not because you did that, or that person did this. Like taking it's also it's in two ways. It's taking responsibility for what's going on for you, but that is also really empowering, because when you're taking responsibility, you have the power to change it, rather than my happiness and my feelings and my sanity depends on you changing now. It's more, this is what's going on for me, this is my feelings, this is my needs. And then after that we can get into like requests and collaborative problem solving, but the foundation of my well-being is not dependent on you. It's about my needs.
Now remember your intention, that you're speaking to be understood, to be heard, to be received, and to create connection. And so you want your language to be reflecting that. I was going to say something else about language, but I can't remember what it was now. Sorry.
Yeah.
Might come back to me.
And I just lost my thought as well. thought thieves are coming.
They're attacking us today. Yeah. So those phrases, and that phrase, a part of me, is within that speaking from the I. A part of me feels, a part of me needs, a part of me wants. Yeah.
Yeah. And another aspect of this is sometimes as parents we have this idea that we shouldn't be vulnerable in front of our children, that we don't share our inner experience. Like a lot of kind of conscious parents already know how important that is, but sometimes we forget. Like we hold back from sharing what's true for us. But in reality, when it's not something that is laced with blame and projection and kind of putting it onto someone else, when you're just sharing your feelings and your needs, even the youngest children can have empathy with that and can receive that and can get that and can care about that.
That being willingness to be vulnerable, and we haven't really touched on partners here, which is a whole other topic, but is a huge piece of connection, whether you're talking to your children or your partner, is a huge piece in creating that initial connection that you want before you can move in too many other directions. So it's really powerful. And I just remembered what I wanted to say about speaking from the I before. That speaking from the I, and Kaya talked about responsibility. From in terms of your energy, that is keeping your energy grounded in you. It's not like blaring it out all over the place. It's a really powerful place energetically to speak from and maintain your congruency. That's what I wanted to say.
Yes. And it's kind of sending that energy of, well, partly of my needs matter. I'm bringing them into the equation, but I'm not bringing them into the equation from the place of you're all to blame and you all need to make sure they're met. It's more, they matter to me, so I'm bringing them into the equation, and now as a team, as a cooperative partnership, we're going to aim to make sure they stay in the equation. We're going to aim to meet them, but not neglecting yours as well, which is like kind of the next bit.
Yeah, my needs don't take away from your needs.
Yeah.
That both sets of needs are valid.
Yes, totally. It's kind of like often when we're in a bit of a kind of a combative side sort of mentality, which happens when we get in conflict habitually, because it's often how we're conditioned to be in conflict. It's kind of like we're seeing that we're on two different sides of a wall and the conflict's in the middle, and we need to break down the wall in order to get to each other. And it's like me, you, who's right, who's going to win. But you can actually look at it like
both of you standing on the same side of the wall, and together collaboratively finding the door and opening it and stepping through together.
Totally. You don't have to be on opposite sides of a conflict. You can work with it together. Yeah. So the part stuff. In the first video,
a part of me thinks this, and a part of me is feeling this.
Yeah. So in the first video we mentioned that it's great to track like that, to kind of track with, I'm feeling this, a part of me is feeling this, a part of me is thinking this, and a part of me is also feeling and thinking this contrasting thing. It can also be really helpful to communicate like that, especially with children. If you're like really feeling quite angry and you have some strong needs, to let them know that a part of me is feeling angry, a part of me is really needing to be heard, a part of me is needing some space, and also a part of me is feeling so much love for you, and actually behind it all I fully love you, so that they can hear that it's not all of you, and they don't need to take it all on, it's just
a part of you.
Yeah, totally.
And that's actually so powerful for you, like when you can break that down yourself and say, there is a part of me that still loves my kids in this moment. That feels okay. And we don't beat ourselves up quite so much. So it's a really powerful one.
Mm. As a side note, this is not like what we're mostly focusing on for this series, but if they are way more triggered than you, like generally in different situations, one person has kind of the more immediate, more urgent, more high needs, and sometimes that is you.
It can be totally be you, and sometimes it isn't.
Yeah, sometimes it isn't. Sometimes you actually have a bit more self-connection in that moment, maybe because you have done a lot of kind of tracking and you've empathized with yourself, and the other person is so not in a place where they can hear you. In those situations, it's probably wise to not continue to try to speak your truth and be heard because it might not land with them, and instead to go to what we call holding space, which is a whole other sphere in the Conscious Mama's Communication Kit, which is about really hearing and receiving them and holding them in love so that they feel heard and they can settle, and then they can get to a place where they can receive you.
Yeah. So it's just something to be aware of. There's sometimes when the other person just cannot hear you, and then your intention to be heard and received and understood is has a heap of trouble, because when a person is totally lost it, and you're included in this, they can't hear. They can't receive anything else. They're so full of their own stuff that's overwhelming them. They can't actually create that space to hear you. So just be aware of that one.
So as you're sharing your truth, you're speaking from the I, you're sharing what I'm feeling, what I'm needing. Continue to come back to all those foundational pieces. Check with your intention, because sometimes we can get a bit derailed. Sometimes we can start with an intention to be received, and we can turn into an intention to be right and to lecture and to drum your message into them. So if you notice you're kind of shifting from where your core intention was when you were self-connected, just come back. Like, check my intention. Can be a practice. Just recheck my intention.
And sharing that external experience. If you're in a conversation, and it depends the age of your, well, maybe it doesn't depend on the age of your child, but like if you're sharing as you go, like, I'm feeling really frustrated right now, and I can see that I've totally lost track of my intention for us to connect on this. Like, share that. Oh, that's still speaking from the I, that's still coming back to your stuff, and sharing what's real for you in the moment as the conversation's going down.
Yeah, and also recheck the connection levels between you. Like, don't just keep going off on your tangent if they're not actually receiving you. Like, if they're checking out, firstly, like we said just before, they may need some space held for them. And otherwise, just check, like, how can I bring back connection? Like, can I, like, stop doing what I'm doing if you started multitasking? Or can I make, like, a connection request of them? Like, is this landing with you? Can you, like, reflect what you heard me say? Or, you, like, maybe use physical touch.
Reminding, like, in a heated moment, and my children, if they get kind of chewed out on like that, and I notice that, recreating that connection can be as simple as, wow, we're really struggling at the moment, I hear that, and I still totally love and adore you, but that's never going to change. Like, just come back and recreate that connection, even if it's like, we're still like, oh, it's not working. Anything else on our list?
Well, so a lot of the next bit we'll share tomorrow, but one thing that I found to be a really big aha, a really big insight for me in the whole conscious communication is working with the word no. So when a child or a partner or anyone just like in various ways says no, or says like, I'm so not going to work with you, like kind of completely doesn't want to be on board with the kind of expectations you had, like, damn it, they're not just listening and following my requests. Or actually, we hadn't we'll talk a bit about
Talk about
requests too.
yeah.
No is not the end.
Mm-hmm.
No is the beginning of collaborative, creative problem solving. And no is also the beginning of you getting really curious about them. No for them is a yes to something else. Like when they're saying no to you,
They're saying yes to something. What are
so,
they saying
yeah.
yes to? Yeah, and that leads us into tomorrow's collaborative problem solving, which is a really cool topic. But there's one piece that we do want to give today, the clear requests.
Yeah.
This is a huge one, okay? When you choose, after you've connected and you've spoken from the eye and you've shared vulnerably and, you know, there's some flow between the two of you and you're talking, you can then start to think about making clear requests, and Kay will give you some language around that in a second, like ways that you might want to suggest that. But think about what request you're making, and is it clear, and is it kind of achievable? And the clear one is probably the most important, because we often make requests that are not clear. A classic one is, can you just chill out? What does chill out mean? Because what chill out means to a 4-year-old and what chill out means to you, completely different. Or, you know, so are you making a really clear request that is really easy for the other person at the end to meet, to fulfill, to say yes to? That's a really big one.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the examples in our book. Instead of, will you be more nice next time?
Can you be kinder next time? Yeah.
Can you ask me with a more calm voice? Another one. Don't ever hit your sister again. Promise me that. Instead of that, this is not prescriptions. This is just suggestions.
So you understand the concept.
Yeah. If you feel yourself getting that angry that you could hit her, please can you come and get help to get what you need? Can you do that for me?
So making sure that you're setting some clear requests is super important in actually getting what you want to happen. And those ambiguous or the unrealistic ones is one thing, like, I want you to never do that again, never, is a pretty hard promise.
And also a lot of really powerful, doable, clear requests are connection requests. So the kind of requests that are saying, could you reflect what you heard me say?
Tell me what you heard.
Yeah. That is the beginning of so much more. Then you can kind of create other requests on top of that, but jumping straight to the solution and you having the solution can sometimes really not land. And actually that we'll talk about that tomorrow, but sometimes even before making requests, you want to co-create the solutions with them. So bringing in their needs, bringing in their feelings, and they can come up with some requests that actually meet your needs as well.
Yeah. The co-creation is really powerful. If your child is the one to provide the solution, that's incredibly empowering for them, and you're pretty much guaranteed that the solution's going to move forward, so they're going to do it.
Yeah. So I just want to read the last sentence in this Speak chapter of this book, because I read it this morning to recap on this series and thought,
we wrote this several years ago. We had to go, I better look at this.
I really like what we wrote here. So it's, remember that the solution is often not even necessary. When connection and mutual understanding are established, the issue can dissolve itself. And then I'll add, you can feel really heard and understood already, especially when the issue is misunderstanding itself, as it often is.
There you go. So there's a heap of strategies there, and instead of prescribing one directly to you, what we're going to ask you to do in this moment, just think back over what you heard in today's video. What jumped out at you as an aha, as something like, ooh, I hadn't heard that before. Ooh, I've heard that, and yes, I totally 100% agree with it. Or whichever way you go, what's that one piece that's jumping out at you to try? And that is the thing we want you to take out into the next 24 hours before tomorrow's class and play with it. Try it on. Say it. A couple times would be ideal. And see what happens. Live it. Experience it. And if you've got any questions around it, let us know. You can reach out in so many ways. We haven't done secret word today.
I know, and we forgot to create it again.
Oh, well, you can pick today. What's the secret word today, Karen?
The one that's coming to me is responsibility.
Responsibility is the secret word for the day. If you message us on Facebook or email us on clientcare@mothersawakening.com, you will be in the draw for the prizes, which are being announced tomorrow.
No, we already announced it.
Oh no, the prizes we announced. That's
I get it.
But we're actually giving it tomorrow.
We're drawing it tomorrow.
Yeah. So message us, contact us. Responsibility is the secret word. And while you're reaching out to us, if you've got a question, go for it, because we'll dedicate a bit of time on tomorrow's live on questions on anything in the whole series that you would like extra clarification on.
And if you want a copy of the Conscious Mamas Communication Kit, which has all these things we talked about and so much more, and not just on speaking your truth, also on holding space for a loved one,
so much, there's
mediating
a ton
truth,
in there.
heaps, then it's probably 1 hour now, or a little bit more. Go to our, I don't think we put the page in, I'll put the page in the comments, the Mother Rising page, and join us in Mother Rising.
We're about to close the doors in just a couple of days. We're about to deep dive into a trimester together, 3 months, of really self-connecting again, on creating inner clarity within, on creating inner harmony within, on loving ourselves up and watching that strong foundation bubble over and ripple outwards. And like this series, we start inner and move outer into the family, and you'll see that in the trimester. And we would love to welcome you into that. The sisterhood is forming while everyone's in there. It's already tons happening.
It is. We'd love to get to know you in there. It's so special getting to know this sisterhood of women.
Special.
It means a lot to us. So we'd love to have you in there.
And join us tomorrow. Tomorrow is prize giving day. But it's also collaborative problem solving and giving feedback, which is a specialized type of really speaking your truth. When you really want to create a very specific change in something that's happening. Have it in the family. I can't think of an example. There's probably so many. But you get the idea.
Yeah, when it's more than just sharing what you're feeling and what you're needing, it's also, you
really need something to happen differently.
Yeah, and you're also you're wanting to create change in the other person as well.
Yeah. Okay, so join us tomorrow. Join us in Mother Rising, because time is running out and we so want you in there.
We're actually closing the doors on Tuesday. So.
It's nearly the end. And then we'll probably... Well, we will. We'll be focusing on our sisterhood in there and the women in there, so we'll kind of tone back a little bit on all our teaching outside.
Doing a live every single day anymore.
So, much love to you. Happy Easter to everyone. It's Good Friday in the US, and
it's actually my son's birthday on Easter tomorrow. He's 11.
He's your baby.
He is. My baby's 11.
It's crazy.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.